Hi, my name is Rajmeet. I am the video head at Django, and I've been working here for the past 4 years. So, a piece of advice for somebody who's just starting out is just create. So, you don't have to think so much. Just keep creating, and every single thing that you create, every project that you do, try iterating and try learning something new in the project that you do. And eventually, you'll get to a point where you'll be sitting in a chair like this and talking as if you're an expert.
Yay. Hi, I'm Niloni. I'm the designer head at Django. I'm a self-taught designer, and I firmly believe in the method of really experimenting your way until you get things right.
Okay, so Niloni, you have been a self-taught designer
Yes.
for over a decade,
Okay.
and the work you've done in design has gotten a lot of appreciation as well. So the question I want to start off is, if somebody came up to you today and said, I want to walk in your footsteps, and I have no idea how to start, where to go,
Okay.
just a starting beginner, what would you advise them?
So there is this term called FAFO, which basically means F around and find out. And there's this whole curve. The more you F around, the more you find out. So being a self-taught designer, I feel like you have to have that level of passion and curiosity to learn new things. And it doesn't matter whether you're working on if you have a fancy MacBook or if you have a computer or even a desktop. Like you can work on your laptop, you can work on your tablet, you can even, there are apps that even help you working on your phone. So I feel like it doesn't matter what medium you're using or even like the fancier software. Like I really very controversial opinion, but I feel like Canva is also a very good medium to start off with. It just depends on how the end result is going to be. So I would feel like you have to experiment and just start. Just reference. You have to realize what the 1 second. Yeah.
It's okay.
You have to okay. So I would say that you have to start referencing, and you need to know that what is a good reference and what is a bad reference. The first step to starting out something is like find your own voice, and in order to find your own voice, you need to reference. Figure out what references that you like and what are the references that you should avoid. I also follow this rule, and which is basically a self-taught rule, but maybe it might be out there, but like it's basically 10, 20, 30 and 40. So 10%, if you ever want to start making some new stuff, like if, for example, you want to make a creative and you don't know where to look at it and you don't know where to begin, find 3 references, copy 10% of the first reference, 20% of the second reference, and 30% of the third reference. Then with the remaining 40% is when you have the room to experiment. And I assure you that your final creative or your final product is not going to look the same as any of the references that you've done. And that is something that is very quick and easy when you don't have that much of inspiration to begin with. And then you can just way forward from there.
So that was like when you're starting off and you have no idea. If somebody was coming to me and be like, I want to start with it, because a lot of people, when they know I've been doing video for a while, they were like, I want to learn Premiere Pro.
Okay.
That's the most common request, right?
Definitely.
Teach me Premiere Pro. And the first thing I would say is I'm not teaching you Premiere Pro. Not because I don't want to, I would love to teach. But that's a very big misconception, is in order to create things, especially video, you need to learn a software.
Yes.
And yes, there is an aspect of knowing your tools to create good stuff. That's where I started out from, making videos, like learning a ton of softwares, because till this date I enjoy learning softwares. But what I have learned is genuinely it is not so much the software, it is understanding psychology. And so as video or designers or video creators, we're more like psychology players. It's like, what is it that makes you want to watch the video?
Heavy agree. I feel like everybody just starts thinking that, okay, I need to start as a designer or even like a video editor. Then I need to learn Photoshop, I need to learn Illustrator, I need to learn Premiere Pro, After Effects. But I feel like that is the step 2. You need to learn what you want to make in the first thing. Find any free softwares that you can. There are lots of dupe like players in the market for Photoshop, even video editing. So start off with that, see how you feel about that, and then go on. I feel like,
I feel the landscape has changed so much in like the past 1 year or so, because when I started, I'm talking 2017, 2018, they weren't, I think Canva was there, but not at the scale that it is right now. There's Photopea, which is like a replica of Photoshop.
Yes.
For video, there's Runway, there is Even Canva can do some great video. So like right now, even if like back then when I was starting, it would to some extent make sense, right? That you know at least one software, and then you go about understanding how storytelling works and you put clips together and do that. But now there is literally no excuse. Like there are so many free on your phone, you can just edit things. And I guess if you're just starting out, the more you consume, like specifically Instagram Reels, because at the end of the day, that is what is trending, right? What is trending on Instagram. And it's not that everything that is trending is like garbage, because there used to be a point like that TikTok era where if it's trending, if it's viral, it's like it's just that. Because I personally don't scroll through short form content at all.
Okay.
But there are a lot of references that I come across and I look at them like this is very well crafted video. As in like somebody thought how the video flows from point A to point B to point C, whatever. Instead of just putting clips together and calling, because that is like your wedding video editor.
Yeah.
There is events happening, event A, event B, event C, event D, doesn't matter. You put it on a timeline and you add some fancy transitions in between, you know, those glitchy ones.
I feel like this type of insight also comes with the fact that you're also referencing a lot. Like, you know, like is that do you also take time to reference things before starting out, or?
No, so that's kind of not exactly, like you said, the referencing rule, right? 20-30, whatever. I haven't worked in that way at all.
Okay.
So for me, learning has always been like a constant process.
Okay.
If I'm not making something, I'm learning. If I'm making something, I'm trying to learn something new through it.
Okay.
So it is always a mind battle for me. If I'm making something, it's like, what new can I learn here? And then in that process of learning new, like for that particular project, I was just telling this to somebody the other day. If you want to learn VFX, right, you want to pick up a project that requires VFX.
Okay.
It could be a dummy project, doesn't matter, you have to do a commercial project. But through that project where you have a specific requirement, like let's say when we're talking, right, you want a tattoo to be on the face. That requires tracking.
Yeah.
So you don't set out to learn tracking. You set out to create a video, you set out to make a project, which then requires XYZ stuff. And then you learn it. How do you learn it? Through YouTube. Like I've learned everything through YouTube. Just search on YouTube and you get a tutorial for it. Even in 2017, there were so many. Of course, now there are many. You can also take paid courses. They serve a place. Initially, I was a bit hesitant to like go to paid courses and get free stuff. But I've realized there's only so far you can go with.
I feel like there's a structure in those type of courses.
There's a structure. For me, it works as in there's an answerability. Like I've paid money for it.
Okay. So you have to do it now.
Yeah, I better just show up and do it. Because if you're following a YouTube playlist which is for free, it's giving you the same information. But there's no like answerability to, you might just be like, okay, nahi karna. You stop midway. So answerability is good. The other thing about courses, right? A lot of the courses which are coming out now are not just like, so the structure of a course is tutorials, pre-recorded tutorials, and then you follow along and then there are exercises and stuff. But an element which is very popular now is community.
Okay.
So when you have a community, right, of learners who are learning with you, which is what a lot of the newer courses are doing. So the Ben Marriott course of motion design, it's an expensive course, but it gives you a community. So when you have a community of learners, there's an answerability. Like like there's a Discord and people are posting their exercise there. So it makes you want to do it.
Yeah. But you also agree that there are alternatives to that. If somebody doesn't want to pay for a course, do you feel like there are also like you can learn whatever you've learned till now with just YouTube videos?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's always a thing. You can learn from YouTube. There is an element of trial and error as well. Like I think that comes more from your end, where you just figure out, I am more of a structured. I'm a learn.
Yes.
So even if I want to do like something which is at level 7, I want to learn what is at level 1 first. That's how my mind works.
Got it.
If I want to learn motion tracking, for instance, there are like levels of motion tracking. There's planar tracking, then there's 3D tracking. I want to first see what is at the base, because I know some way or the other that is being stacked upon.
Got it. Yeah. I also feel like you have to just say if a project is coming to you and you have absolutely no idea about how to go about it. I just feel just say yes first. Yes first and figure out later. Like because you're holding accountability yourself that okay, मैंने हाँ बोल दिया तो अब by hook or by crook I have to finish it. So I feel like even if you're scared of trying a new craft, if you're like okay, there's a print ad for an absolute beginner, something like a hoarding or a billboard or a TVC is also going to be very overwhelming. But I just feel like just say yes. You can figure it out later. You can panic.
You aim for the moon, you'll at least...
Yes. And then you have that accountability to do it. So that's More about it. So like I was saying, so you remember Kriti, right? So I remember that she used to start for the longest amount of time when we had hired her. We had no idea that she was working from an iPad, like all her illustrations from my iPad, and it's so shocking to realize that she doesn't have an excuse or like you don't need to have a system, you don't need to have a Wacom tablet and making illustrations on your own. Like there were times where she used to make it on paper and used to figure it out. So I feel like anybody who's starting out new, they should not focus on kaise karenge, kahan se karenge. They're just like okay, let's start from day one. That's it. So Rajmeet, addressing the elephant in the room.
Okay.
There's this really big concept of AI that have just emerged and like blown everybody away, including designers, including editors, including everybody in the spectrum in the middle, even copywriters, solution strategists, everybody in fact. So how has AI impacted you personally, and how do you go on about using AI in your day-to-day working?
So I think there isn't a straightforward answer to this question. Like initially when AI came out, so I'm not talking way too long ago, just like 1.5 years back, AI is just like a tool everybody's playing with. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just putting in prompts and generating some random stuff. The way I got into AI is not by choice, because one of the decks that we had a reference, had an AI reference. And
I don't think anybody got into AI by choice. It just came to our lives.
How do you do this? And then I'm like, okay, there's something called a stable diffusion, and then you have to do this. That's how I got into it, out of like having to do it. But then if you look at how much AI has evolved in the past 1.5 years, just 1.5 years, which is also a warning sign to where things can go. But just for context, it is right now to a point where it is good enough to replace a creative person. But we'll get to that later. There is a lot of good things as well. Like if you are talking specifically in terms of video, right? There are a lot of tools which... So what AI does very good is it takes out the monotonous tasks from your thing. So then you as a creator can sit and do the creative part. Like for example, this podcast that we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
Inside any premium editing software, or even the online ones, they'll have this feature. Is if you're doing a multicam edit, for example, Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, you don't have to manually add markers. Because I remember doing that, adding manual markers and then syncing the audios of the 3 clips. And now you just, there's a feature in DaVinci Resolve, you match the clips by waveform and you're done.
Okay.
There is another feature where you auto transcribe in Premiere and DaVinci Resolve both. I'm using these softwares because that's what I'm using most. And it gives you the entire transcript of the audio, if the audio is good enough, in most cases, which it is.
Okay.
And then you can select pauses on the upper side and then just trim those pauses out. So, so the entire process of manually removing those pauses is gone. Okay. We're talking about multicam, using those waveforms that automatically generate sequences for you. So then you can just sit and edit through. Okay. And then taking that next step, there's a plugin called Autopod, which will even do the cutting for you. So like right now I'm speaking to the camera. So the camera detects that this cut is my face.
Okay.
And then when you say okay, it will cut to you. And then we can tweak that as a parameter. Okay. That if your okay is less than 0.3 seconds, it won't go to you.
All my okays are going to go away now.
If we're using that plugin. Is this just like a plugin for that plugin? Okay. I would personally not use it because it's a little more destructive.
I saw you flinch in the part when you said AI. So you said we're going to come back to it later. So you said the goods. I feel like there's a bad coming.
Because I was saying the good things yet. I haven't gotten. That was the multicam thing. I'm talking about the things which help me in my workflow, right? There's Adobe Podcast, which is if you give it trash audio, it makes it beautiful sounding. Okay. There is captions.ai. It gives you animated captions by like auto transcribes them, gives them automatic captions, which I know as a matter of fact, if you have to do it manually, it's just too much of a hassle. Okay. And everybody on Instagram is using those captions, so the client wants that kind of captions.
Got it.
So these are all the good parts of AI. And I want you to tell me, like, as from a design perspective, what are the good parts, and we can dive into the bad parts.
Oh, okay. Before we deep dive into that. But I feel like using AI as a designer, it has a lot of perks. When you're talking now, we're coming definitely into software. So things like removing the background or adding some sort of a background. For example, if you're sitting over here, I can make this chair. I can just select on Photoshop. There's this auto-generate feature where I can just select and I can make this chair into a bubbly pink colored fluffy chair.
With the right highlights and the shadows.
Yes,
and everything.
yes. I can select on your turban and color it in like red color I want. I feel like the problem with AI begins is if I'm trying to change the entire setup using just AI. There's a part of the AI curve where like even the client will agree with this, that when you use AI too much, the creative starts looking like an AI. And right now, when the wave has started, everybody wanted the creative to look very much like AI because they wanted to be the first people to like try out AI. But now, so remember that there's this time where you go to a Photoshop artist or you go to a graphic designer, and because you don't have the budget of doing an actual photo shoot, you manipulate those images and you turn into an actual photo shoot, and the client feedback that comes is that "Arey, ye realistic nahi lag raha." Even when it's made by Photoshop, of course, it's going to look realistic. I feel like that's also now translated into AI. So they want you to use AI, but the final process, if it's looking like an auto-generated image too much, it's very easy to catch on to it. So the new client feedback is just like, ye AI lag raha hai, hame thoda realistic banana hai. So I feel like I like working in the sidelines for AI. If I have to remove an object, if I have to generate, if I have to expand it, if I have to change the element, if I want to change the ring into like a better looking ring or something like that. But I feel like I wouldn't, and I would also go on to Midjourney or Firefly and everything to reference and find out new layout options that the AI throws at me. And that's definitely a better learning for when you don't have, like, when my reference points are not looking very good. I don't know how the layout is going to turn out. So I'll just put on a prompt and I'll just be like, okay, creative way.
Like a brainstorming session.
Yeah. So it's very good in that. But like using that as a final image, that is a little problematic, I feel, because you don't, like, it is going to look fake in the end of the day. Now I feel there will be a time in the future where you won't be able to tell the difference between AI and not AI.
Sure.
But right now at this present, for whoever's watching the podcast, I would actually suggest to try putting in a little bit of your touch into just an auto-generated campaign or a KV.
I have a twofold approach to, like, mindset to this. One is, you said right now you can't see the difference between AI generated. That is going to blur very soon.
Yes.
Because I said how much AI has evolved in like the past 1 year. In 1 year from now, somebody who's taking a camera and going and shooting out footage is not going to be very different from somebody who's put in a prompt with a particular sort of model and gotten that same kind of image.
How do you feel about that?
Terrible. I feel really bad, because what happens is it takes if you look at art in general, right? Art for me is mostly like process oriented. It's not so much result oriented. It's like, I want to spend time learning how software works. I want to spend years learning how Blender works, because that's what I've done.
Okay.
I want to spend years learning how Unreal Engine works to create a game, and then use those skills to then sit and make my own art.
Got it.
Instead of sitting in front of a computer and typing in prompts and then getting a 3D render which looks like somebody who's spent years mastering the craft. And then, because at the end of the day, these AI, the machine learning tool, is using the artwork of like these artists who've spent years and years, and then iterating over with a seed and then bringing something to the table and be like, the biggest problem is you can't say whether it was done by a 3D artist or it was done AI generated. So the pitfall here is that if everybody is switching to that route, there is no more impetus left to learn 3D. There's no more impetus left to learn Blender, which it's hard. It's not easy. For me, it was very hard. It's still very hard. But that the difficulty in learning is where the real fun is.
And I think also the question comes in the fact that you're also, because the system is built in only that way, where you are still copying an artist's style. So if you're going to write cartoon caricature, if you generated I want Rajmeet to look like a cartoon caricature, that cartoon caricature has been an art form of somebody else that is just being replicated.
Yes.
So I feel like there's a gray area. You can use it in a good way where you're not robbing somebody of their creativity while you're also making your own. And then there's a way where you can just, it's an easy way. You just search it out and you put it. But at the end of the day, if every single generated image is going to look like the same generated image from past, then I feel like the point of the AI software or AI in general becomes absolute, where you're not using it for removing your monotonous work, like what you mentioned about the captions and stuff. But when you're actually using that as a real tool which is going to remove your way of thinking from your mind into just writing captions for the software to just churn out something out. I feel like that is where the part of creativity is ending. And I feel like AI shouldn't do that. It should be opposite.
There's like a thin line you have to walk on, right? So for instance, my major use of AI is in coding. So like if I'm coding something, if it's in whatever language, and I don't, earlier what you would used to do is if you don't know JavaScript, you would go onto these forums of W3 schools and stuff like that, and you would search for the syntax or the documentation that the developers are given, and then you would figure out, okay, now what you do is you go to ChatGPT and say, I want to do this in this language, and it gives you exactly what you need. So you just copy that code, you put it in your editor and just run it.
And that's an excellent way of using AI.
And it works.
Yes.
But the problem is when you're outsourcing syntax, it is okay, right? You don't want to go through the hassle of syntax, but you can also outsource logic.
Okay.
Because we're like, I want to do this is how can I do it? Instead of actually thinking what the logic should be.
Okay.
Because logic in programming just comes down to if this, then that. But there are a lot of nuances in between.
Okay.
And so that can also be outsourced to ChatGPT. Like, tell me what the logic should be, and it will happily give you the logic.
Okay.
So what happens is the more you keep outsourcing, it just doesn't stop at the monotonous work. It also starts to get into the thing that you have a brain to use for. So I have to be conscious of I'm only using it for the syntax part, and I am myself exercising my brain. It's kind of like how when calculator came out, some people will be like, oh, you're going to not be able to do math anymore because you're just going to do calculator. This is like a more sophisticated way of that. You're not going to be using your brain for what you want to do it, but just outsource it through AI.
I feel like there's a pull and push that's happening with the way people are perceiving AI. Now, I remember in the start where it just came out, all your strategy, all your copywriting and everything was like, okay, now we can just write into a prompt and like it's going to come out. And it came out great. People really were buying into it. But now it's just we're not giving the consumers enough credit to realize that, this is AI and this is not. So even if when you're talking about video, of course, there's going to be a curve where, you're not able to figure it out. But I feel like excessively using AI for at least in terms of design or in terms of concepts or even in terms of copy. We're going a little away from the design and video conversation. But I feel like there's again a pull and push because now even if I read a caption, I'll know it's ChatGPT written. I have done it myself. I have gotten feedback saying कि ये तो ChatGPT से लिखा हुआ है. So I also feel like we're not giving enough credit to the consumers to realize where this is leading to, like whether it's AI or whether it's not AI.
So I guess it's hard to come to like a pro or a con against it. The best thing you can do is just wait. But like for somebody who's creatively aligned, right? I would suggest to like steer away from AI as much as possible.
Okay.
Like just learn the basics and try doing things yourself.
Okay.
And if you feel like you need some help, then sure.
Got it.
This is kind of like students who are in school right now. They don't want to do their assignment themselves, so they put on ChatGPT and they get the answer.
That I live for it. That's cute cheating that you can do.
Because in our time, at least, and that's not too long ago, but still, when we were in school, we were doing our assignments. There was no such option.
Okay.
And when there is no such option, you're forced to like go through books and like learn things. And when you're learning these things like these, you're basically exercising your brain a lot more that way, which doesn't have to exactly help in what you're doing, but that will help like in a lot of other areas of your life as well, like a complete cognitive development, for instance. Basically the ability to sit here and talk, I feel it comes from reading a lot, or comes from like being present and doing a lot of things which are not directly aligned to sitting and talking.
I feel like the answer is, what are you doing with the time that you saved from feeding prompts into it? If you utilizing that time into actually building your own voice, your own like creativity, channeling out, doing something productive, then I feel like then AI definitely is helping. But if you're just writing prompts and then you're not doing anything to actually personally help fuel your creativity, then I just feel like it's not that beneficial for you. So I feel like it just goes down to that.
This is a little more agency-oriented question, like a discussion. And what do you think about job title or labels? And what has your experience, like, does it justify what you do? Do you want it to be a certain way? Or what is your opinion on it?
I feel so somebody who, like, even if you ask right now in house and ask what is Niloni's designation, people don't really know it. Some of them think it's a senior art director. Some of them think it's a graphic designer. Some of them are like, okay, design head. I feel like it doesn't matter. As long as you're doing good work, there is good salary coming in your pocket. It does not matter whether you're a team lead, whether you're a junior designer, you're a senior designer or anything. It just matters where you have to churn out good work and content. And I feel like it applies the same to you. However you feel about that.
No, so I think it works in the agency that we're working at, right, at Django. It doesn't, like where you're saying it doesn't make so much of a difference, but in a corporate structure where there's a hierarchy, and then every time, like, because you would see LinkedIn profiles and be like, senior associate, something. It's not just for that, but it's because they're probably getting a promotion out of that. Or like it's maybe they want to show it, like they've done so much in their career trajectory or whatever. So in that aspect, I feel it helps to have a label for whatever. For what we're doing, I've never felt the
I mean, we're in the agency culture. It doesn't matter. Like, pretty sure you've been, and that's where the overlap also comes, right? I'm pretty sure you've also, when you're making a reel, you've also done some sort of graphic designing that's required, where you've made, like, you've turned some slates into, like, use your own brains. You've made it into that way. But that doesn't come in your designation.
Yes.
And that's not labeled. But you're still doing it because it's required for you to do so.
Yeah, for the creative field in general, right? Except for writing, maybe. That is something that can be a separate thing as of now. But for my, like, again, when I'm making a video, that's like my baby. So if it requires design, I will design it myself. Although we would have a provision of, this is the designer on the video, you can get slates from there. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I did that, because I've started doing the thing where I will only do it from the start to the end. Just give me a brief. Because I feel that is where I have most creative control over things. It's like there were times when Niloni is going to design the slates. Even for those projects, when I'm animating them, I don't think I've ever come back to you, even if there is design feedback, like do this and give it to me. Because it just doesn't make sense. I might as well go ahead and do it myself, because I want to save on time. And moreover, for me, it was from the beginning, I want to learn design.
Okay.
Because it's just a way for me to learn a lot more. And like if you see, again, this is a little digressing from the labels, but a video in 2024, with moving to 25 now, but a video today is not just a video. You don't have to be a video editor to make it. You have to be a video editor, a designer, a graphic designer, a motion graphic designer. And if you're doing like high quality educational stuff, then you have to be a 3D animator. That is how you distinguish yourself. So yeah, again, labels for the most part for me, they have made no sense. And because I don't even like vibe with what.
I feel like jitna paisa pocket mein aa raha hai, that makes sense. Labels, it's like I don't feel like people should think that much. Are we pro labels or not pro labels? Are we pro or not pro labels?
No, we're against labels. I mean, I'm against labels. No, so but then I said at the beginning that you have a structure in a corporate environment there, it makes sense. For us, it doesn't make sense.
I feel like if you are into like labels, again, they don't really put that much importance. Of course, 60% of the work that you do, 65%, 70% if in fact of the work that you do is label oriented. And I'm not talking about the hierarchy. Again, I'm not talking about whether you're an intern level or a senior level. I feel like your job description and your job role, I am still expected to, if I know how to use, if I know how to make a GIF, why the hell will I not make it myself? Like, why would I have to come to you or any of your designers, video editors, and be like, okay, ye banana hai, slate karna hai? Because again, in the end of the day, I have that creative freedom to place or make that GIF the way I want to, and that also helps you and your team out with so much of, other time to, like, rather than making the GIF, you're going to be focusing on more main creative aspects in your own entire field. And the same, I feel like, is expected out of the video editors. Like, if tomorrow, if it's just a cut and paste reel format and where you have to put like a typography in the middle, I feel like everybody should have that sort of skill set in the video team to realize which placement works better and which placement doesn't work better. And at the same time, every designer should also know a general understanding of like basic animation. If you can actually animate it from, you go on After Effects, make something, make an animation that's somewhat like decent, and I feel like that's great for you, because that's an added skill set that I'm like you're providing to the company. And that also comes with a lot of, if you want to actually go, if you want to jump up your label, if you're really into labels and if you want to jump up to labels, I feel like not really caring about your labels is the one way to actually jump up in labels. So it's a paradox, yeah. So basically put your hands in whatever you can you basically put your hands in whatever you can get, and then you move on from there.
I would love to hear everybody else's take on labels. Huh?
On what?
Labels. Have you guys been hearing what we're saying?
Yeah. Our what is brand label?
No, just your job label.
My job.
No, job title.
It's good on paper, the work is the same.
I want to actually put on the part of पैसा जितना आता है, because उल्लू बनाने का भी धंधा होता है.
But the title is very good for me on paper because 2 years GSM, it makes a difference, na?
That's what I was saying. Like when he goes somewhere else, when he has that on his LinkedIn profile, that makes a
They will see that fast growth.
Can we have this fourth wall, this thing where we also take his opinion
No, we
in
can.
the
But
background?
there's no format.
I think even a job label for Sir Varun makes a difference. Creative director, senior copy lead, it makes it, because even though you led a team of 2 people, over there you can say, I had these many people under me.
Because when you're applying for that position where you are in a head position, they're like, what experience do you have as a head?
So, yeah, on paper, the bigger companies especially labels matter, not your smaller ones, I feel. Like, I don't think if you're hiring for, your own agency, since it's lesser people, you will not care about the label, you see the work. But a company like a Lintas or Ogilvy, that'll make a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumping into the deep end, how do you address feedback? For example, you've made a very brilliant video that you feel is brilliant. Now the client is coming to you and saying that's shit, change karo, and I need 2-3 options different from them. So how do you address that? Do you fight back, or do you listen to what the client wants to say? How do you?
It's been a process to detach myself from the art that I've made. So initially it used to be a big problem because we both come from a passion-oriented field. We haven't been doing it for the money as such. It's always been a byproduct. But it's so much of the art that I've put my heart and soul into what I've made. And if a very severe feedback comes on it, then it used to be very disheartening. But it's been like a curve where I've learned how to detach myself from that and look at it as a job that I'm doing. So if there's feedback and if the client wants the product to be a certain way, even though in my head I know it doesn't work, that is why I didn't do it in the first place. That is the feedback. I'm gonna do it and give it. And I feel that is not letting your guard down. It's just accepting that piece of art was destined to go that way and not how I was thinking it to do. Because if there's something I really want to do, I might as well do it as a personal passion project. And so like drawing that line between something totally passion and like this is my job, I have to address the feedback and get it done, because getting it done is not just my thing. There are too many other people involved in getting that creative done. So looking at it from a logistics standpoint, if I keep fighting back just because I want my creative to be a certain way, it's not just harming me, but so many other people involved in it. So just take a call that, okay, this is how it has to be done. I'm gonna do it and give it. But then if there's something severely like then I will fight back. But my radar of fighting back has gone tremendously down.
I feel like that's what you have to do. Like in the end, client is always right. And I also this thing that I do where I just try to nip it in the bud, because that way I get best of the both worlds. If a brief has come in and if I have to go with multiple options, let's say I have to go with like 3 options or 2 options of anything at all. What I do is I try to bifurcate it. I make the creative in a way that the client, I make the creative in a way that, okay, the creative number 1, that is going to be in the way the client wants it to be. Creative option number 2 is the way I would want it to be. And most of the times, and touch wood if your client is actually good, they're not demons, they're not monsters. They're also coming from a way that, they have this prejudice in their head that, okay, whatever I give, it's going to come out good. But you have to show them an idea that you really firmly believe in. When you show them a visualization of that, 110% of, not 110%, why am I saying 110%?
Okay.
But like 70% of the time, the client is going to value what you have to say. And I have noticed it. It's a hit or a miss, but even in a miss, there's a hit. The client is going to eventually pick on the idea that I have thought of, because they know that we're the experts. So a thumb rule is, if there are 2 options, do it one their way, do it one your way, and then let's figure it out after that.